All right, how's it going, legends? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm MythKnight, and today I want to pitch an idea that's been living rent-free in my head ever since I rolled credits on Jedi Survivor. Now look, Survivor was solid. Great combat, great character work, and Cal Kestis is easily one of the best things to come out of modern Star Wars. But when I finished it, I couldn't help thinking, okay, where do you take this next without just doing the same thing again? And I reckon the answer is bigger stakes, deeper Force lore, and consequences that actually feel dangerous. So here's my pitch. The sequel kicks off a few months after Jedi Survivor. Cal's older now, worn down, smarter, less reactive, more deliberate. He's not just surviving anymore. He's actively choosing what kind of Jedi he wants to be in a galaxy that's getting darker by the day. Then the inciting incident hits. Cal and the crew, Merrin, Greez, whoever's still standing, intercept intel that the Empire has located the Valley of the Jedi. Not a rumor, not a half-decoded archive, solid confirmation. Coordinates, movements, Imperial assets already en route. And if you know your Legends lore, that name should set off alarm bells straight away. The Valley of the Jedi isn't just some ancient ruin or dusty temple. It's a massive wellspring of Force energy. A place where the Force pools, amplifies, and warps everything around it. In the wrong hands, it's not just dangerous, it's catastrophic. The kind of thing the Empire wouldn't study, they'd weaponize it. So Cal doesn't get the luxury of hesitation. This isn't about protecting one hidden path or saving one group of refugees. This is about stopping the Empire from fully tapping into something that could change the balance of the Force itself. If the Inquisitors get access to it, if Palpatine even sniffs that kind of power, game over. That's the hook. Cal and his crew go on the offensive, tracking Imperial task forces, sabotaging research teams, racing against time to reach the Valley before the Empire can stabilize and exploit it. No Chosen One nonsense, no galaxy-saving prophecy. Just a Jedi who understands that some knowledge should never be claimed, not even by the so-called good guys. And that's where the game starts. This wouldn't be about raw power fantasies. It'd be about restraint, about deciding whether the Jedi should even exist in places like this anymore, about Cal staring straight at a temptation that could make him unstoppable and choosing what to destroy instead. That's the kind of sequel I want to see. If that sounds like your vibe, stick around, because this is just the opening move. So the way I'd open this thing, I'd go hard straight out of the gate. First chapter drops you straight into chaos. No menu fluff, no warm-up. You load in and Cal's already in a full-on scrap. Blasters screaming, lightsabers clashing, the whole screen shaking like it's about to tear itself apart. Stormtroopers everywhere. Purge troopers, flamethrowers, rockets. It's messy, desperate, brutal. And then Vader steps through the smoke. No dramatic intro, no cutscene warning. He's just there. Like gravity suddenly switched on. You fight him. Properly. Not a scripted runaway moment. You swing, parry, dodge, and for a few seconds you almost believe you can win. Cal's stronger now. Faster, more controlled. You land hits. You stagger him, and then the illusion cracks. Vader adapts, starts walking you down. Every parry hurts more. Every mistake costs blood. Stormtroopers keep pouring in while he barely even looks at them, like they're background noise. One by one, Cal's people fall. Greez goes down trying to buy time. Someone else screams over comms and cuts out mid-sentence. And then, the worst one? Merrin. You see it happen. You can't stop it. Vader doesn't even make it dramatic. One moment she's there, defiant, angry, alive. The next, she's gone. Just another casualty of standing too close to a Sith Lord. Cal loses it. The screen distorts. The music warps. His attacks get wild, desperate, angry. He's not fighting smart anymore. He's fighting like someone who's already lost everything. And that's when Vader finishes it. Black screen, silence, then Cal jolts awake. Sharp breath, sweat, heart hammering like it's trying to break out of his chest. And Merrin's there, alive, annoyed. Hand on his shoulder. Cal, she says, half concerned, half amused. You were shouting again. Just like that, nightmare. No Vader, no dead crew, no burning battlefield. Just a quiet room, dim light, and Cal sitting there realizing his worst fear isn't something that has happened. It's something he knows could. And that's the tone setter. Right from the start, the game tells you this isn't about power fantasies or beating Vader in a rematch. It's about fear, trauma, and the knowledge that the Empire doesn't need to win once. It only needs to win eventually. That nightmare sticks with Cal. You feel it in the gameplay, in the dialogue, in the way he hesitates when Merrin's in danger later on. It's the reminder that every mission could be the one where he doesn't wake up afterward. And honestly, that's exactly where a Jedi Survivor sequel should live. Alright, so chapter 1 keeps rolling, and this is where you really start digging into Cal's head. After the nightmare, Cal does what he's supposed to do. He sits down, closes his eyes, starts force meditating. You hear it in his thoughts, not spoken out loud, just layered into the sound design. The Jedi mantra: center yourself. There is no emotion, there is peace. All that stuff he's been clinging to since he was a kid. But it's not working. Every time he tries to focus, the images creep back in. Merrin falling, Greez bleeding out, Vader standing there, unstoppable. The mantra keeps looping, but it's weaker each time, like a recording that's been played too many times and is starting to warp. And you can feel it. The Force isn't calm around him. It's restless, fractured, like Cal himself. So he stops, gets up, and does the most Cal Kestis thing possible. He goes looking for something to hit. Cue the sparring sequence. Combat droids activate, training models at first, then heavier ones. And this isn't a calm, technical spar. This is Cal venting, hard swings, aggressive force pulls. He's overcommitting, smashing droids apart like they personally offended him. You as the player feel it in the mechanics. Less finesse, more raw power. It's not perfect Jedi form, it's frustration wearing a lightsaber. And when the last droid finally hits the floor in pieces, Cal just stands there breathing heavy, saber humming, realizing it didn't actually help. That's when Merrin shows up. Not dramatic, not lecturing, just there. They talk properly, quietly, about the nightmare, about fear, about how pretending you're fine doesn't make the galaxy less cruel. Merrin doesn't tell him to let go. She tells him it's normal to be scared, and that what matters is what you do with that fear. It's one of those conversations that feels earned. Two people who've lost worlds, not just loved ones. And then everything shakes. Alarms scream. A rebel starship drops out of hyperspace way too low and way too fast. Engines gone, hull torn open, and slams into Tanalor's surface like a dying animal. Cal and the crew rush in. Inside the wreck, they find a lone rebel survivor, barely conscious, burned, crushed, dying. Merrin steps in without hesitation. You see her Night Sister magic up close. Not flashy, not evil looking, just different. She weaves it carefully, stabilizing him, pulling him back from the edge. It's a quiet reminder that power doesn't always have to be destructive. Once the rebel's stable enough to talk, the real bomb drops. The Empire knows about another Force nexus. Not Tanalor, something older, something bigger. A place called the Valley of the Jedi, and the Empire isn't just scouting it, they're mobilizing. Scientists, Inquisitors, dark side scholars, entire task forces. Their goal isn't study, it's control. The rebel barely manages to get the words out before passing out again, but it's enough. Cal realizes what this means instantly. If the Empire gets its hands on a Force wellspring like that, one that feeds on echoes of countless Jedi, it's not just bad, it's game over. Not just for rebels, for anything beyond Imperial borders. Known space, unknown space, everything. Total dominance, and that's where Chapter 1 really locks in its promise. This isn't just about survival anymore, it's about stopping the Empire from turning the Force itself into a leash. And Cal Kestis, he knows, deep down, that the nightmare he had at the start of the chapter wasn't just fear, it was a warning. And that's where Chapter 1 keeps pushing forward. The Stinger Mantis lifts off like it's done 100 times before, scarred, stubborn, and still refusing to quit. Stars stretch into hyperspace, but the mood inside the ship is anything but calm. No banter, no jokes from Greez. Everyone knows this isn't a supply run or a rescue op. This time, they're hunting. Cal lays it out straight. No fluff, no heroic speeches. They need an imperial vessel, not to destroy it, to take it. Codes, data, star charts, command access. If the Empire's moving toward the Valley of the Jedi, then somewhere out there is a ship that knows exactly how, when, and with what force. And they're going to steal that knowledge. The Mantis drops out of hyperspace on the edge of a known Imperial patrol route. Sensors light up with distant traffic. Star destroyers further out, but closer in, a lone Imperial cruiser. Big enough to matter, isolated enough to risk it. That's when Merrin steps in. She moves to the center of the ship, plants her feet, and the air changes. The lights dim. The hum of the engines dulls like sound itself is being swallowed. Her magic unfurls slowly, not violent, not aggressive, just impossibly precise. Green sigils crawl across the hull in ghostly reflections, and then the Stinger Mantis stops existing. Not cloaked, not jammed, gone. Cal feels it instantly, that strange pressure behind the eyes, the force bending sideways, slipping between definitions. The ship isn't just invisible, it's intangible. Scans slide right through them. Sensors refuse to acknowledge their presence. Even the crew feels muted, like they're standing half a step out of reality. BD gives a confused beep, then settles, trusting Merrin more than logic. They drift straight toward the Imperial cruiser. No alarms, no reaction. The hangar bay opens to receive incoming shuttles, and the Mantis glides through the shields like mist. Deck crews walk beneath them, completely unaware. Stormtroopers laugh, officers bark orders. Life goes on, blind to the knife sliding between its ribs. The moment they pass fully inside, Merrin exhales. The magic loosens, not fully gone, just enough. Reality snaps back into place. The ship settles onto the deck with a soft thud. Cal ignites his saber, but keeps it low. Not yet. This isn't a battle. Not yet. This is infiltration, hijacking, turning the Empire's own momentum against itself. Cal looks at his crew, Merrin steady, Greez tense, BD locked in. Same ship, same stars. But the stakes are different now, because this time they aren't just running from the Empire, they're stepping straight into its throat. And here's where the game really starts to feel different. This time, the crew isn't just background flavor or cutscene support, they're part of the gameplay loop. Properly. Moment to moment. Greez finally gets to be more than comic relief. He's still got the attitude, sure, but now it actually matters. If you're stuck in a section spinning your wheels, he chimes in over the comms, not with hand-holding, but with practical suggestions. Stuff a pilot and smuggler would notice. Alternate routes, cargo lifts, power relays you might have missed. During the hijack, he's back on the Mantis, and you feel it. Every now and then, the comm crackles to life. Stormtroopers closing in on the hangar, ties scrambling, security teams trying to breach the ship. You hear blaster fire in the background, auto turrets roaring, Greez barking half-panicked, half-cocky updates as he holds the line. It sells the idea that the Mantis isn't just parked, it's under fire, and if Greez goes down, your extraction disappears. Merrin's role is even bigger. She's with you inside the cruiser, not just as backup in fights, but as a puzzle breaker. Her magic becomes a core mechanic. You're not just slicing consoles and force-pulling crates anymore. You're combining Jedi abilities with Night Sister techniques. She can veil corridors in shadow so patrols pass right through you. Anchor spectral bridges across reactor gaps. Bind malfunctioning Imperial machinery long enough for Cal to move through. Warp space in small, unsettling ways that let you bypass security fields the Empire never designed counters for. Some puzzles straight up require coordination. Cal manipulates the environment with the Force, while Merrin reshapes it with magic. Timing matters. Positioning matters. It feels less like a solo Jedi power fantasy and more like a team actually working in sync. And narratively, it lands. Merrin isn't just helping because it's useful. She's invested. This is her fight now, too. You hear it in how she speaks, how focused she is, how protective she becomes when the Empire starts locking down sections of the ship. Chapter 1 becomes this slow burn infiltration. Alarms escalating in the distance, corridors sealing off, the sense that the longer you stay inside, the worse things are getting for Greez back on the Mantis. You're not just pushing forward, you're racing a clock you can't see. And somewhere deep inside the cruiser, the data you need is waiting. Proof that the Empire is moving toward the Valley of the Jedi, and that this hijack is only the beginning. And that's really the key idea with Merrin in this game. She fills a role similar to what Celebrimbor was for Talion in Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. She doesn't just exist alongside Cal. She's not there to occasionally comment, throw a cutscene assist, then fade back into the background. She's actively driving progression. Moment to moment, Merrin is part of how you solve the game. You feel her presence mechanically. She's layered into traversal, stealth, combat flow, and puzzle logic. When you hit a locked progression wall, the solution isn't always find the right force power. Sometimes it's how do Cal's Jedi abilities and Merrin's magic interact here? Just like Celebrimbor wasn't merely Talian's conscience or lore dump, he was a system. Merrin becomes a gameplay system. You'll have sections where she whispers warnings before Imperial ambushes, other moments where she marks enemies through walls using Force-adjacent sight that's distinctly not Jedi. She can momentarily tether Cal to unstable spaces, letting him blink short distances or survive environmental hazards that would otherwise be lethal. And crucially, none of this feels like a gimmick. The Empire isn't built to fight Night Sister magic. Their scanners, shields, and protocols are designed for Jedi. That asymmetry becomes a design pillar. Stormtroopers adapt to Cal. They can't adapt to Merrin the same way, not without time and not without paying a price first. Narratively, that also reinforces why Cal needs her. He's powerful, sure, but he's also mentally fraying. The nightmares, the intrusive thoughts, the constant fear of loss, all of that is eating at him. Merrin isn't just emotional support, she's an anchor. She steadies him when the Force feels too loud, too heavy, and gameplay reflects that. When Cal pushes himself too hard, overusing high-risk abilities, chaining aggressive Force moves, Merrin can intervene, not to save him for free, but to redirect the flow, to pull him back from the edge just enough to keep going. It creates this push and pull rhythm. Cal is raw power and instinct. Merrin is control, manipulation, and foresight. Together, they feel complete. So instead of the game being about unlocking Cal, it becomes about mastering the bond. Learning how to weave Jedi discipline and Night Sister magic into a single playstyle that feels fluid, dangerous, and unique. And honestly, that's what makes this sequel idea feel like a real evolution. Not just more skills, bigger enemies, or higher stakes, but a deeper, more integrated way of playing through the story itself. So Cal and Merrin move fast. No speeches, no hesitation. They both know the longer this cruiser stays connected, the worse this gets. First priority, isolation. Merrin weaves her magic through the ship's comms array, not brute force destruction, but corruption. Signals get bent, echoed, looped back on themselves. To the outside galaxy, the cruiser looks quiet. No distress call, no status ping, just another Imperial ghost drifting through the Verada sector. Cal feels it immediately. The Force goes tense, like the ship knows it's been cut loose. BD dives into the systems next, and that's where things start going sideways. This cruiser isn't just a troop transport, it's layered. Redundancies stacked on redundancies. Black site security protocols that don't even exist on Imperial schematics. BD chirps in frustration as firewalls snap shut around him, systems actively fighting back. Cal mutters, they really didn't want anyone seeing what's in here. BD tries one last override and fails, so he does the only thing left. He shuts the whole thing down. Lights die, gravity stutters, emergency klaxons howl once, then cut out. The ship plunges into a half-dead state, running on skeletal backup power, and that's when the screaming starts. Cell doors unlock across multiple decks, containment fields flicker out. Stasis pods crack open like eggs. The Empire's lab rats spill into the corridors. These aren't clean clones or polished prototypes. These are broken people. Twisted bodies. Augmented limbs welded into flesh. Failed Force-sensitive experiments that were never meant to survive, let alone wake up angry. You feel it in the Force. Not dark side ambition, not Sith calculation, but raw animal rage. Pain that never healed. Minds that were pulled apart and stitched back together wrong. Some of them don't even attack at first. They recognize the Empire. Stormtroopers panic. Training goes out the window. Blaster fire lights the darkness as experiments charge through corridors with inhuman speed, tearing into white armor with hands that shouldn't be able to do that. And now Cal isn't just fighting soldiers anymore. He's fighting consequences. Enemies that don't move like troopers. That don't think tactically. That lash out with pure hatred, screaming, laughing, sobbing mid-attack. Some use unstable force bursts. Others rely on brute strength, cybernetics, claws, bone spikes, horrors born in labs that never saw sunlight. Merrin goes quiet when she senses them. Not afraid, furious. These were people, she says. They were used. And suddenly the tone of the mission shifts. This isn't a clean Jedi op anymore. This is a moral weight pressing down on Cal's chest. Every deflection, every strike, he feels the wrongness of it. Some of these things can't be saved. Some don't want to be saved. The Empire didn't just build weapons here, they broke souls. And Chapter 1 stops being about hijacking a cruiser. It becomes about surviving a floating crime scene, holding together as everything the Empire buried comes clawing back out of the dark. And that's when it gets messier. Way messier. Through the smoke and flickering lights, Cal starts picking up voices over the emergency channels. Not Imperial command. Not officers barking orders. Stormtroopers, panicked, cornered. Some of them injured. Some trapped behind blast doors that won't open anymore. Please, please, Jedi, we didn't sign up for this. They're tearing everyone apart. Help us. We'll drop our weapons, just don't leave us here. Cal freezes for half a second. Because the Force doesn't lie here. These aren't tricks. These aren't ambushes. These troopers are genuinely terrified. Kids pulled off backwater worlds, fed propaganda, shoved into white armor, and dumped into a nightmare they never understood. Merrin feels it too. They would kill you without hesitation, she says. Not cold, just honest. Yeah, Cal answers quietly. But right now, they're not. And this is where the player gets their first real gut punch choice. You can step in. You can hold the line while troopers scramble past you. Push back the experiments. Raise a force barrier while blaster fire rains overhead. You hear troopers shouting thanks, disbelief, relief. One of them even hesitates, lowering his rifle like he's seeing a Jedi for the first time instead of a target. The Force responds differently when you do that. Cal feels steadier, still afraid, still angry, but grounded. Or you can do the other thing. You can let the doors stay sealed. You can ignore the screams. You can even cut them down yourself when they run toward you, mistaking hope for mercy. And the dark side doesn't explode into lightning or red eyes. It's quieter than that. It's the relief of not having to care, of simplifying the galaxy into enemies and obstacles, of telling yourself they chose their side, so this is on them. Merrin doesn't stop you either way, but she watches. And Cal feels the difference immediately. Not in power, in weight. Saving them makes the burden heavier, but shared. Killing them makes it lighter and colder. The ship keeps falling apart around you. Alarms reignite. Experiments keep rampaging. Stormtroopers keep dying, by your hand or by someone else's. And it becomes painfully clear what this chapter is really doing. It's not testing Cal's combat skills. It's testing whether he still believes people can be more than what the Empire turns them into, or whether he's starting to believe the Empire might be right about one thing. That fear is easier than hope. And as the cruiser drifts deeper into isolation, cut off from the galaxy, Cal Kestis is forced to confront a truth he's been running from since Survivor. You don't fall to the dark side all at once. Sometimes you just stop reaching out to save people and call it survival. And from there, the game splits, not into two different stories, but into two very different mindsets driving the same mission. If you chose the light side earlier, Cal's priorities shift immediately. The secondary objective isn't just reach the bridge anymore. It becomes damage control with a conscience. You're moving through collapsing corridors, busted labs, and fire-filled hangars trying to get people out. Scientists, technicians. Even more stormtroopers who drop their weapons the moment they see you. Some don't trust you at all. Some flinch every time you ignite your saber. Cal talks to them. Short, strained sentences. No speeches. No preaching. Just follow me. Stay close. Don't look back. Merrin actively helps here, sealing ruptured hulls with magic, holding back creatures long enough for evac routes to open. Greez is tense on comms, rerouting power, yelling that the ship's not going to hold much longer. And while you're saving lives, you're also hunting specific ones. Officers, commanders, anyone who knows why this cruiser was here in the first place. When you finally corner them, Cal doesn't tear into their minds. He interrogates, presses, uses the Force to sense truth, not rip it out. It's slower, messier. Sometimes they lie, sometimes they break down and talk anyway. But Cal walks away heavier and cleaner. If you chose the dark side earlier, though, the cruiser becomes a slaughterhouse. The secondary objective doesn't change on paper, but the way you pursue it does. You don't rescue anyone. You don't wait. You move forward like a blade. Stormtroopers don't beg anymore. They panic, scatter, scream warnings down corridors that go unanswered. When you find officers and commanders, Cal doesn't even speak to them. He takes the information. You grab them with the Force and wrench their thoughts open, not carefully, not surgically. It's violent. Memories spill out in flashes, star charts, hyperspace routes, half-whispered briefings about the Valley of the Jedi. Some of them die instantly. Others survive, but broken. Eyes glassy, minds burned out, reduced to mumbling wrecks slumped against bulkheads, and that's when it really hits. Greez goes quiet on the comms, no jokes, no yelling, just a long pause before he mutters, "Kid, that was rough to watch." Merrin doesn't hide it. "That was not justice," she says, not accusing, not angry, just shaken. "That was hunger." Cal feels it too, and that scares him more than anything else. He tells himself it was necessary, that he was angry, that the Empire forced his hand. He even promises himself it won't happen again. But the Force doesn't forget what it felt like, and neither does Merrin. By the time the cruiser starts tearing itself apart for good, both paths lead to the same truth. The Empire is moving on the Valley of the Jedi. But how Cal got that information matters, because one version of him believes this mission is about stopping evil before it spreads, and the other is starting to believe that maybe the ends really do justify the means. And that thought follows him out of the wreckage, back toward the stars, where the real test is waiting. So after all the chaos on the first cruiser, things escalate fast. A new imperial cruiser emerges at the edge of the Verada sector. They've named it Doomgiver. And this isn't your standard stormtrooper-filled transport. Nah, this one's loaded with Force-sensitive warriors, dark Jedi, and even shadow troopers. You know, like the ones from the Force Unleashed games. Those guys who practically phase in and out of reality while tearing through anything in their path. Commanding the Doomgiver is Galen Favor, a cold, calculating Imperial with a penchant for Force users who push the limits of dark side corruption. He doesn't just sit back, he sends his best forces straight onto the hijacked cruiser Cal, and the crew have commandeered. Of course, Cal Kestis doesn't back down. He and the crew fight like maniacs through the corridors. Lightsaber clashing, Force pushes sending shadow troopers tumbling, Merrin using her magic to suppress Force-sensitive enemies, the whole shebang. Eventually, Cal comes up with a bold plan. He's not just going to fight them, he's going to use the Force to crash the hijacked cruiser into the Doomgiver itself. It's a risky, near-suicidal move. But Cal and Merrin combine their powers, coordinating their Force abilities to steer the massive ship through space like some kind of deadly battering ram. Sparks fly, hull groans under the stress, and the Doomgiver shudders as impact draws near. The result? Absolute carnage. The Doomgiver takes a massive hit, its boarding party's shredded, its systems failing, but the cost is huge. Cal and Merrin, drained beyond anything they've faced, collapse from exhaustion. Greez and BD barely manage to drag them back to the Stinger Mantis and hide their bodies, desperately praying no one notices the two incapacitated. It's a moment of victory, sure, but one tinged with fear. Because the Empire isn't going to sit idle, and now the Verada sector knows there's a serious force moving against them. Cal and Merrin's limits have been pushed to the absolute edge, and the crew knows this is only the beginning. From here, Chapter 1 ends with a tense quiet aboard the Mantis, a calm that masks the storm looming over the Jedi and their friends. Greez mutters under his breath as he watches the stars streak past. Let's just hope they don't find us, not yet anyway. And that's where I'm going to leave it for now, folks. Like I said, this is just the beginning of my Jedi Survivor sequel concept. I'm planning to break it down into 6 full chapters, just like the games themselves. So there's plenty more story, action, and Force madness to come. I'm MythKnight, and I'll catch you in the next video.